From GAN Studios in Philadelphia, it's Game All Night, starring Chris Whitpan. This week, Chris and Dan welcome special guest, Kenner Spiel des Jahres winner, Elizabeth Hargrave. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game All Night. I'm here with Miss Elizabeth. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Can I tell you, I had to record the intro like 5 times because I kept saying Hardgrave. I don't know what it was.
Yes.
Is that common?
People add that D. I get an S on the end a lot too. Hargraves.
Interesting.
Is another common. Yeah.
Interesting, because it was driving me nuts, and I'm like, that's not right. I know that's not right. I need to do that again. Hopefully I got all the other stuff right, so that'll be good. But so
it was actually, it's the Kenner Spiel, not the Spiel des Jahres.
Oh, it is the Kenner. So I guess I will have to go fix it now. Yeah. Even better. I mean, well, now we need to hunt down, I wonder if there's an American designer who's done a Kinder now, because we had Rob Davio on, who did the Spiel. Now we've had you who did Kenner. So you know what? You just need to design a Kinder Spiel winner, and then then we'll go from there. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do. So, well, let's just dive right into that. So what did it feel like to get the call? I mean, let's admit, like, it starts with getting nominated, right? It's not just winning the trophy, but even getting nominated has got to be a very big deal.
It felt like a very big deal. Yeah. And the nominations only come out like 6 weeks before the actual award ceremony. So
it's not the easiest to get off work to do that then.
Yeah, I had to scramble and rearrange some things. I had some other things planned for that week, it turned out, but it worked out.
It wasn't even on the radar, was it? It was just kind of came out of nowhere?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So where were you when you found out? I got to know that.
I was actually at my brother's house in Montana.
Okay.
And it happens in the middle of the night, U.S. time, because it's in Europe, right? And so I woke up and I was checking my messages on my phone, and I had a message on Facebook Messenger from someone that I don't even know personally saying, "Hey, congratulations on your nomination." What?
Oh, that's great. You're like, I don't know you. Awesome.
So I actually texted him back. I was like, "Congratulations, you're the one that told me." He was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. It shouldn't have been me."
Why not? I mean, who else should it be?
Out somehow.
Is there a little drone that shows up at the house that kind of like just flies in and says, "Congratulations"?
No, it was, so I found out unofficially first, and then I guess they were in communication, the Spiel people were in communication with the German publisher, Feuerland, the guy there, who then reached out to me by email. But I didn't really hear directly from the Spiel des Jahres people for several more weeks. So I was very glad that Frank at Feuerland had his act together and helped me figure out what I needed to do to get to Berlin.
Exactly. So you get to now. Do you do a lot of international travel, or was this something new that you had to like super scramble, or?
I mean, I do enough international travel that I had a current passport, so I didn't have to do that part of the scramble. But yeah, I for my consulting job, I had a site visit scheduled that week, so I had to sort of contact my client and say, like, I'm up for this big award, and everyone says I really should go to the ceremony, and it's this week. And they were very gracious about it. That organization has several pretty serious board gamers on their staff, so they kind of knew what the award was, and we're like, "Oh yeah, you need to go to Berlin. We'll make it work." Awesome. But then I ended up going straight from the award ceremony, like going and getting on a plane and joining that site visit. So that was a little stressful.
Yeah, a little anticlimactic. It's like you go win this thing, and then all of a sudden you just got to hop on a plane and get out of town.
Right. I mean, maybe it was good. It gave me something to do straight after.
Well, maybe not, but we'll know.
When all the excitement's over, I wasn't just sitting there going, "Okay, what now?" Okay, have to go do this thing.
Who do I talk to now?
Yeah.
So you're in this foreign country and you win an award. I guess I'm curious, like, do they present it in German? Like, did you have to have an interpreter tell you and then just kind of like, okay, you can react happy now or sad now? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, the guy who runs the ceremony, the MC, is pretty fluent in English. So he was throughout the ceremony sort of going back and forth between German and English.
Okay.
Because there were other non-Germans up for the spiel and the Kennerspiel.
Okay.
But there were big chunks of the ceremony that were only German, like the German Minister of Culture came and gave a little talk, which everyone said, oh, that was really good. She really gets it. And I was like, okay, I gotta take your word for it.
I totally have to take your word for it. No idea.
Yeah, so and they actually do a dress rehearsal.
Okay.
So there's an event the night before where they kind of walk you through what's going to happen a little bit, just verbally. But then the morning of, you have to show up like an hour and a half early, and they actually go through like, okay, now you'll come up on stage. Now you go sit down. Now you'll come up on stage, and like practicing the questions they're going to ask you and everything. They make a serious production of it.
I would say. Now, do they have to do it like one time for everybody in the category so nobody feels like, you'll have to come up, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and do all that?
So they call all the nominees up. Let me see if I remember this right. They call all the nominees up and you all get your pictures taken together. And then they do little videos. So you all go sit back down. They do videos of each game. And then they call you up, and that apparently no one knows except the two people that count the votes.
Okay.
Who won until the moment that and there's a big reveal. There's like a thing with a sheet over it that they pull off and reveal the winner.
Awesome. So did you have to account for? I mean, the trophy's kind of large. Like that's got to take some serious baggage to get that home, right?
Yeah, and it's solid wood, so it definitely, like, a solid mass of biomaterial apparently will get your luggage flagged in security.
Did they go, congratulations? Did they do anything for you when you walked in, or they're just like, what's this thing? Like
in the airport, it was very much, what's this thing?
Yeah. So well known. People at work, but not German TSA. They don't know Squad.
No.
That's awesome.
I mean, they seemed kind of impressed that I had won any award, but I don't think they knew what the Spiel des Jahres is.
Nice. I mean, I guess they wouldn't get the thing, like, oh, hey, it's my first ever design. Oh, and it just like took home like the best award in the company, in the business, right? So.
Right. I mean, apparently, people told me in Germany it's a much more well-known award. Like, it'll make it into the German mainstream press who won the Spiel des Jahres. Okay. And especially the Spiel more than the Spiel. But it's not so mainstream that like airport security knows about it, apparently.
Apparently, they need to get out more because they need a little more downtime in the break room, I guess. So that's pretty awesome. We rewind to what must have been a very crazy 2018 into 19, because I mean, who would have expected that it would have, come out to such acclaim right out of the gate? Like, I feel like sometimes these things are slow starters and like you need to kind of convince people that this is fun. But it really felt like everybody wanted it right out of the gate, which really kind of was shocking and wonderfully so, right? We're like, what a cool idea to have something new. What was that process like once you got it out into the public and having to try and get the word out, or maybe just keep up with it as it was coming out and getting released?
Yeah, it felt a little bit more like keeping up with it. I mean, Stonemaier has a big base already of fans, right? So when they started talking about it, when Jamie Stegmaier started talking about it at the beginning of December is when he did that. Like, he created a Facebook page and he was like releasing little bits of information
Mhm.
each day in December about the game, or at least for the first week or two. And people got kind of worked up into a frenzy over it, even then, before it was even available to order. And then it sold out so quickly in the beginning of January. So I think even once things started going on the Facebook page and people
Right.
were, there was especially this sort of core group of people who were both birders and gamers who were just
Mhm.
losing their minds over it. So between like that level of energy on the Facebook group, I think that gave us our first inkling of like, oh, this could be really happening. And then in January, when it sold out so quickly, we were off to the races. And from there, it was just playing catch up the whole time, I feel like.
And I think we're finally caught up now. I think it's been a year now. I think you're finally there where it's now.
Apparently not with production.
No?
Apparently the last print run has already sold out again.
Now, I would argue a lot of that probably has to do with the European expansion coming out, because that's obviously adds more hype again to it even more.
Yeah, possibly. I don't claim to really understand like how expansions drive demand for the base game, but I'm sure I do think there was a set of people in Europe who may have been waiting to get the base game until they could have the European birds with it.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So I've read a lot of places that you definitely are kind of a spreadsheet junkie, that you really enjoy. You love getting hardcore. If you know pivot tables,
That's fair.
you're better than me. Pivot tables are the bane of my existence. I just
They're
can't.
awesome.
I know they are.
So good.
I know they are. It's just I can't. I don't know if my use case is too small, but I struggle.
Maybe.
I struggle a lot. But how was that tool in trying to balance this game? How did that really kind of help bring it together? Because let's face it, there's a lot of cards. So you have a lot of variability. And to try and keep it as balanced as it is, how did you work at managing that?
Yeah, I mean, I started my design for a lot of its life had many fewer cards, well under 100
Right.
cards. And so that helped me sort of get everything set up. And then when we decided to go for that feeling of a big deck and like you'll never go through the whole deck in a game,
Right.
like that feeling of exploration. So then I had to like build out from that core set. And that's, I think, when the true power of the spreadsheet kicked in. So in the game, there are 3 different habitats, right? You have the forest and the grassland and the wetland. And I wanted to have an equal number of birds from all those 3. And there's 4 nest types that can matter for different scoring things. So I wanted to have an equal number of birds with cavity nests versus stick nests versus bowl nests versus whatever.
Right.
And so even just doing that was a lot of like, oh, if I put this bird in, then this one has to come out. And so I basically downloaded a whole list of all the birds from the US and Canada and had them all in the spreadsheet, and then was like taking them in and out with a little flag of like, okay, these are my birds.
Wow.
So that was the first part of like that. That's just like, you can't do that with anything but a spreadsheet. And then certainly when I was adding all those birds in, like coming up with a formula for how to generate the score of each bird, which is sort of, it costs this much food, but it's, flexible in these ways, but it gives you it has capacity for this many eggs. And most importantly, it has this power, which I'm going to dock, this many points off of its score because it has this power versus another power.
Right.
So all of that is like one big long math equation that the spreadsheet just automatically generates. I mean, I have to say like what each of those things is worth, but then I didn't have to make something up for each bird. I made up the system, and then as I added 100 plus more birds, didn't have to think individually about each bird beyond what is its power worth.
Right.
So that was a huge help.
Interesting. So the other thing I have is, how did you kind of come up with some of the individual powers? Because like there are some that, you know, you have some of the raptors and, you know, it's just draw a bird from the deck. If it's X, you get Y. And where did some of that kind of come from? Because you compared this to Race for the Galaxy, and you said you wanted to make a bird Race of the Galaxy with birds. And I'll tell you, Race drives me nuts because nothing makes sense, and it's very hard to teach. So it's very difficult to work with. But your system just really works, and it makes sense on a much bigger level. So how did you try to work these special powers while keeping theme, while trying to balance a spreadsheet? That's not easily done.
Yeah. I mean, so my very first version of Wingspan, the birds did not all have powers on them, but there were certain birds that do things that I am really fascinated by. And I was like, oh, that would be cool to work into the game. And then because those powers, people really enjoyed them, it became a thing that sort of spread through the whole deck. So one of those birds is the brown-headed cowbird, which is a nest parasite. They don't actually build their own nest. They just lay their eggs in other birds' nests.
Oh, that's nice.
So that was an obvious one. I'm like, oh, I could have this bird somehow lay eggs not on this card, but on other birds' cards. And it became, when someone else takes the lay eggs action of their grassland, then the brown-headed cowbird puts an egg on another bird with the right type of nest.
Interesting.
Yeah, so where I knew something about the bird that was an obvious, like, oh, I could, so you brought up the predators, that was another one. I tried for a little while having predators actually take out other bird cards, but in the final version of Wingspan, it's so expensive to place a bird out onto your board. It takes multiple actions to get all the food and the cards and the eggs. It's just like, it's too swingy. It feels terrible. It doesn't make any sense to be able to kill other people's birds. And it's just mean. It's just not my style. So I came up with this other thing for the predators to do, which is they go looking for prey, right? So they're either looking at the top card of the deck and tucking it as prey, or they're rolling dice and looking for mice or fish. So that was another one. I'm like, okay, here's a behavior that I can think of a way to make it into a game mechanism.
Interesting. So when you went to do Europe, and you have to come up with some new things, because we have to do new things because, you know, that's how you keep things fresh. Was it a struggle to come up with them, or is it just you start pulling on the string and they just start coming out?
A little bit of both. If I had to do Europe immediately after finishing the first 170 cards, I would have been at a total loss. But I have a big Google Doc where I keep ideas for card powers as they occur to me. And at one point I posted in a Facebook page, like, what would you like to see as a bird power? And got hundreds of responses. It was amazing. And so that's all in my Google Doc now. And then on top of just having random ideas, again, as I read about each bird, sometimes there's just something obvious from the description of the bird that I'm like, oh, that would be fun. And here's a way that I can think of to portray that. So, yeah, I was a little worried that I would be able to come up with them, but now I'm working on the next expansion. And again, it's just like, they just come. I don't know how, really.
Now are you finding it fun to kind of go into different, because obviously it's no big secret that they're going to be continentally based. Do you find it interesting to go into different like groups and areas of different birds available? And is the information harder to get in different zones?
Yeah, so Jamie's announced that the next one is for Oceania, so Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, which they have amazing birds, right? They have all the parrots and birds of paradise and cockatiels and whatnot. So that's been super fun. And yeah, so as a birder, I had certain resources that I knew for North America.
Sure.
only cover North America. So it's definitely been a learning process with each continent of like what's the best resource. And I've bought field guides for each one that I've done, and then also there's a bunch of stuff online. All the information is out there. The thing I've had the hardest trouble finding is actually the wingspans of birds in Oceania. I do not have a good source for that. I need to check around and double check the numbers I've got for everything on those.
You can't just send somebody to the zoo with a tape measure. That's not going to work.
Right. And like the Australian field guide that I have takes a different wing measurement that doesn't convert into the wingspan the way I've got it in the base game. It's very strange.
Interesting. All right. So you know what? I feel like this is a great place to stop because I want to kind of come back and after the break and kind of get into what it was like being a first-time designer, picking a crazy theme that nobody thought of yet, aside from Gone Birding, which we won't count.
Oh man!
And we'll go from.
There have been a few other bird games out there.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to be right back with Elizabeth Hargrave after this. Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
Two hats are hanging out on a hat rack. One says to the other, "You stay here. I'll go on ahead."
All right, everybody, welcome back. I am still here with Elizabeth. She did not fly away. Huh? See what I did there? All right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll try to leave the puns up to Patrick, who does much better puns than I do. I think it's really interesting that, and you know, I find it almost frustrating that everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, we're so surprised. A game about birds did really well," but I think in an environment where we're kind of tired of the same tropes and themes, I think something new and something fresh has a place on the shelf. I know it was a conscious decision to do a different theme. How is that playing into your future designs as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a conscious decision. It was really the thing that drove me to start designing games, was that I was really not interested in all the common tropes that were historically board game themes.
Right.
But people are like, "Oh," to the extent that it was a conscious decision to do birds because they hadn't been done before. It was really just like me picking something that I care about and not so much like looking at the market and being like, "Oh, birds have never been done." And so going forward, it's just sort of that same, like, I just want to make games about things that I think are cool and sort of share what I think is cool about those things with people, right? So like Mariposas came about because I'm just fascinated by the fact that monarch butterflies migrate all the way from Mexico as far as Canada, and that no one butterfly makes the round trip in that migration. There are 4 generations between the one that leaves Mexico and the one that makes it back.
Interesting.
And so I find that so fascinating. I wanted to figure out how to do that in a board game, and have people sort of interact with that story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I tend to really believe that if somebody puts a lot of love and passion in a thing, that really shines through in the details and the final guest experience. Did you kind of see that happen throughout the course of playtesting Wingspan? Did your passion kind of fuel that progress, do you feel?
Maybe, I don't know. I had 1 or 2 people along the way sort of go like, "You're never going to get a game about birds signed by a publisher." But I do think more often people got drawn into the world and were like, "Oh, this is actually cool. I've never thought about birds before, and you really made me see them in a new light." And so I think that experience definitely made me feel like it could do something, like that it could go somewhere. So
interesting. So you've done, to this point, we've done 3 games now, because you've done this one, you did the Tussie Mussy, and then you did the Mariposas that is about the monarch. So what's Tussie Mussy? Well, I know what it's about, but what's it about for them? Because
so
I love
Tussie
the
Mussy
theme.
is a 18 card game that was inspired by the Victorian language of flowers. So that's another one that like I knew that this thing existed in the world, and I think it's really fascinating that it ever happened, and I wanted to show it to people. So in the 19th century, is that right? Victorian times, yeah.
I think so.
People were publishing flower dictionaries that had these, extensive lists of different flowers and what they mean when you give them to someone. Yeah, it was this whole fad apparently. And you can look up some of these dictionaries online, and
Very
so
interesting.
yeah. So Button Shy had a game design contest during Gen Con one year, and I had also been thinking about, I had recently heard a couple different podcasts where a couple different designers were like, I think that I Split You Choose is a really underused mechanic. And so the concept of I Split You Choose and seemed to go really well with giving people flowers. And so that's sort of how that came together. So it's a game where you're offering another player 2 flower cards, but one is face up and one is face down, and they have to decide which one they want and which one they give back to you.
Interesting. So I love that it's simple, and of course it's gorgeous. Beth Sobel, I believe, did the art, and again, which really works for your style, because she's very like illustrative and photorealistic at the same time, which is a great pairing for your style of games. So I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now the future games, I mean, what else flies or blooms that can we expect from you in the future? I mean, is it, I think there's nowhere to go, but I'm sure you have like a dozen ideas of where to go from here.
Oh my God, I have so many ideas. Not all of them are nature.
Okay.
I have a very early prototype of a game about stunt people.
Okay.
But I need to talk to Kathleen Mercury, because I hear she's working on one too. So we got to figure that out.
There you go. Oh, she's probably amenable to working together, I would think.
Well, she may be done. I don't know. I got to talk to her.
Fair enough. So the other thing that's kind of surprising is that everybody was amazed that not only could it be a game about birds, but oh my goodness, a female designer won the Kennerspiel. This is crazy. I don't know about you, but to me, some of the smartest people, if not the smartest people I know, are all women. So I don't understand why this kind of bias exists, because I struggle with that, because I don't really see it. Like, what have you seen on your end that kind of surprised you in reactions to that?
I mean, I think just breaking in as a designer, I was very surprised at the gender skew in the industry and playtesting events, that there are so few women designing. Like, it's more common now to go to events and have there be other women. But when I was starting several years ago at playtesting events here around DC, I would often be the only woman in the room. And that was a shock to me, coming from health policy, which is a field that's like 50-50, if not more, women.
Okay.
It felt like I had gone back to like my early career in the 90s, when that was not true either. But yeah, in terms of, I mean, I wasn't the first woman to win the Kennerspiel. That was Inka Brand.
Okay.
But, and I never saw any particular blowback, which I had sort of braced myself in January for like mean people on Reddit and whatever social media, which I just kind of stay away from Reddit. And
You and me
And
both,
the
trust me.
Facebook group is very moderated, and I sort of, stay on top of my Twitter feed and keep mean people out of it. So knowing some women who do content creation who've had horrible harassment, like I was really bracing myself, and I did not experience anything on that level. But it's still just really uncomfortable sometimes to be in a very small minority within the industry. And so I've been trying to be very vocal about that, and trying to push people to think about, like, okay, it's going to take a really long time to get to parity. If we just let things take their course, it would probably eventually get there. Things are certainly moving in that direction. But what are things that we could be doing more proactively and more consciously to encourage women to be gamers, first of all, and then to be designing games? And I do think there's a little bit of a chicken and egg there too, that, like, to the extent that all of the games are designed by men, is it possible that they are accidentally creating games that appeal more to men than to women? And is that part of, like, why it's harder to get women into gaming? If you look at the demographic profile of who's in the Facebook group for Wingspan versus who's in the Facebook group for Scythe, it's very different.
Really?
And I don't think that's an accident. So
Makes a lot of sense. So you said you're trying to do things to encourage like more female presence on both sides of the hobby. What are some things that, we can do to help create a more welcoming space at our events that we do? For instance, I'm organizing an 18xx convention, and I'll be honest with you, I don't expect to see one woman there, but it's not because I wouldn't welcome them. It's just because in that genre, it's similar to the war games. There are just so few people who really like it that it's hard to try and create something that's welcoming and open and obvious at the same time. How would you recommend that, we go forward with that?
I mean, if you have special guests, definitely seek out people and invite people from different backgrounds. I can think of some women that I know that play 18xx games. Like,
I know they're around.
If you put out feelers, you would find them, right? One thing that I have found really nice at a few of the designer events that I've been to in the last year and a half or so is that we've started just scheduling like a breakfast or some other get together for the women that are at the event, which I think feels really good when you are in the minority somewhere, to like take that time to sit down with the other people who are like you and just kind of bond a little bit, and then like you see those friendly faces the rest of the weekend. And even though you may be really spread out across the big hotel conference room or whatever, you know that those other people are there somewhere, even if they're not in your line of sight all the time. And it makes it feel a little bit less lonely that way.
Right. So make something comfortable. Now, I always have a fear of tipping the scale from being opening and inviting to being pandering, because I don't want to say, like, just put flowers in the ladies' room. Like, I don't want to be that obnoxious about it, but at the same time welcoming. So is there a fine line there? Like, what would you consider over the line, and where should we stop?
Yeah, what would be pandering? I don't know. Yeah, I think if you went out of your way to find women and invite them and get them to come, that certainly, sets a signal that you want them there, which is not always obvious.
Right.
And then, like, to the extent that you do get some of them to say, yes, I would love to come, then like ask them what they would want. Like, acknowledge that they will probably be in the minority and ask them what they would want to be more comfortable. I mean, I think it's really important for events to have codes of conduct, and that will certainly make people more comfortable coming as well. And there are good examples out there. so that if something weird does happen, like you have already thought about how you're going to deal with it.
Right.
So those are the sorts of like creating a foundation to make people feel welcome. I don't think ever will feel like I don't think it will ever feel like pandering to the people that you're welcoming.
Okay.
And I think there's still enough out there among heavy gamers. There'll be those guys that are like condescending and, recommending moves to people and assuming that they don't know how to play. Like that stuff still happens all the time. And I don't know how to educate the other part of your conference how to not do that stuff. Christy Wayland actually made a great little video that was like this series of examples of things people have said to her and that she wishes people wouldn't say anymore in gaming spaces. So, you could show something like that or at least pass it around before the conference or something. I don't know.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of guys aren't even consciously doing it. It's just they game in all male spaces with a bunch of guys that they've been gaming with all the time, forever. And they go to a space where there are women and they don't like it's so outside of their experience that they're surprised by it and assume that those women don't know what they're doing when often they are quite good at what they are doing.
My wife cleans my clock constantly, so you don't have to tell me at all. But she'll be the first one to say.
Even if they're not good at what they're doing, they should still be there, right?
They should still have fun.
Great,
absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Now, if you had to write a mission statement for what you'd like your board game design career to be or your board game presence to be, what would be the theme of that mission statement?
Mission statement.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be that ironclad, but what would you at least want the tone to be? Like, I'm not going to come back to you and say, hey.
Really heavy, man.
Yeah, like what are your core values? Your what's your vision? What's your
I like making games, like I said, that sort of tell a story about something that I think is really cool in the world and that I think other people will find interesting and fun.
Right.
Yeah, and I want them to be reasonably accessible to everybody.
Awesome. Well, this has been a complete blast, Elizabeth. I've enjoyed our time together. I can't believe it flew by.
Yeah.
They're just coming out of the woodwork tonight. And I definitely appreciated you coming on. If people want to find you on the internet, I know you talked about, being on Facebook, being on the Wingspan group. Where's a great place for them to kind of follow along and see what's coming next from you?
Yeah, so me personally, I have a website that I try and keep up with. And if you go to the website, it has a little way to sign up for a newsletter. Okay. So that's elizhargrave.com, ELIZ Hargrave.com. And that's my Twitter handle as well, elizhargrave. And if you are into Wingspan, I do highly recommend the Wingspan Facebook group. It is a very eclectic mix of Wingspan questions and bird pictures and other random fun things. That's been just a blast as a way to interact with everyone that's playing. I never could have imagined it.
Awesome. So final question, what has been your favorite card so far?
My favorite card. I like the birds that change habitats that you can actually move around on your board. Excellent. They're one that a lot of people, when they first play, they're like, why would I ever want to do that? And then at some point it clicks and they're like, oh, that's awesome.
There you go. Yeah. Outstanding. Well, thank you so much again. And I appreciate it. And I look forward to Oceania coming out. That's exciting. Yep. And I'm going to have a lot of little Wingspan boxes because that's going to be 6 more coming, I guess. So.
Yeah, well, I haven't totally decided about whether Antarctica is actually going to make it into the world, but
it'd just be a lot of penguin cards.
A lot of and water birds, ocean
Yeah.
birds. Yeah.
There you go.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Fair enough. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for being on, and thank you at home for watching. So we'll catch you next time on Game All Night. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. I hope you got to enjoy getting to know the guest just as much as I did. Now, if you like the show, please subscribe below so that you can know when we drop new episodes. We are here in season 3 and we are asking for a little bit of support this year. And all I need from you is one of 2 things. If you can help us out on Patreon, just $1 or $2 goes a very long way and will help make sure that I can continue to make the show. And if you can't afford that, that's fine. I love seeing retweets. I like to see people out there telling other people about the show whenever possible. So be sure to tell your friends. And of course, if you have thoughts or ideas about who you'd like to see on the show, drop me a line. I'm happy to have it. And a special thank you to everybody who has supported the show in the past and who has signed up recently. Thank you again so much for your support. We'll see you next time, and be sure to have fun when you game all night.
And the octopus